Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Muhammad Shafiq, lecturer in philosophy at Department of Islamic and Pakistan Studies Trust. The course I'm teaching is called Introduction to Logic, and the course code is PHI 101. This is lecture number 26, and today we are going to discuss what are the conditional propositions in context of truth table and symbolic logic. The outline for today's lecture consists upon first we are going to look into what are the conditional propositions of statements, what is the nature and characteristics of conditional propositions or statements, and what is the truth value of conditional propositions. So what are the conditional propositions? Again, I would draw your attention back towards our one of the lectures in the beginning in which we discussed about propositions and different kinds of propositions. And if you remember, there's a kind of proposition which is called conditional or hypothetical proposition. And this conditional or hypothetical proposition is called conditional. Why? Because in such kind of statements, there is a condition, and the phrase or the term we use in these propositions is as such if, then, or sometimes, or most of the time these days, people don't use if, they just use then. And this if, then, this conditional proposition, the relationship which is conditional, is expressed in the symbol of a horseshoe. For example, if I say, if it rains today, then the road is wet. So if we take it rains today as the statement P, and then we take the road is wet statement as Q, so these are the two statements P and Q. Now the relationship between these two propositions or statements is hypothetical or conditional, because it says if it rains today then the road is wet. अगर बारिश होती है तो सड़क गीली होगी. So there is a condition if and then. So if it is not fulfilled, the first proposition, then the second would not be correct. And this relationship is shown with the symbol of horseshoe. Hence, this statement, if it rains today, then the road will be wet, can be shown or expressed in symbolic form P horseshoe Q. Why? Because P, it rains today, antecedent, and Q, the road is wet, consequent. In conditional or hypothetical propositions or statements, there are two parts. One is called antecedent and the other one is called consequent. The consequent is basically dependent upon antecedent. Now we are going to look. There are conditional propositions without if then or then. Passage of the law means morality is corrupted. Now, if we look closely, there is no phrase of if then or then is used here. It is very clear that it is a conditional proposition, although phrase is not used if then, because it suggests a cause and effect. So, it means the conditional proposition might not use the if then phrase or just then as a term in a proposition or in a statement. Conditional proposition could be without if then phrase, which can be easily detected because it suggests a cause and effect relation between the two parts of the statement. If the law is passed, then morality will be corrupted. Basically, when we say a passage of the law means morality is corrupted, can be interchangeably used for the statement if the law is passed, then the morality will be corrupted. So, although we do not use if then phrase or then term in passage of the law means morality is corrupted statement, but still it is a conditional statement because there is a relation of cause and effect, and it can be the interchange with another statement which says if the law is passed, then morality will be corrupted. Now, the law is passed, this part of this statement is shown with the letter P, while the morality will be corrupted is shown with the letter Q. And the relationship between these two, because it is conditional or hypothetical, that is why this statement is shown as P has to Q. Sometimes it could be the other way around, but normally antecedent stated after consequent. Generally speaking, antecedent precedes the consequent. Antecedent is always, most of the time, it's the first part of the statement, and then it is followed by a consequent. But sometimes there are cases where antecedent is used after consequent. So the first part of a statement is consequent while it is followed by the antecedent. Now let's have a look if the same statement which we used for last example, that could be used as morality would be corrupted should the abortion law is passed. Now passing of the law is conditioned with morality. Q then P. So antecedent is abortion law is passed, that is Q, statement Q, while consequent is morality would be corrupted, that is the consequent which is shown with the letter P. The rule for the antecedent first and then consequent is we are going to have a look in the truth table what are the rules for the conditional propositions. In a conditional proposition, it is false if the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Thus, other than this form, the conditional proposition is true. This basically means if an antecedent is true and consequent is false, only and only in this case, the conditional statement as a whole will be considered false. Otherwise, the rest of the three cases, it would be considered true. Let's now have a look at the truth table. So the first column is about statement P, the second is about statement Q, and then we have a column for if P then Q. So in first column we have two trues, two false, and the second row of column we have T, true, false, true, false. Now if we closely look into this truth table, if both P and Q are true, then if P then Q is true. That is the rule. If antecedent is true and consequent is false, in this case, only and only in this case, the conditional statement of P then Q would be false if antecedent is true and consequent is false. If antecedent is false and consequent is true, the statement would be taken true, and if both antecedent and consequent are false, then this statement would be true again. So there is only one case in truth table where conditional propositions are considered to be false, and in that case, if antecedent is true and consequent is false. Let us consider this example. If it rains today, then the road is wet. If P, then Q. Suppose it rained today and the road is wet. So both antecedent and consequent are true. That means it is true. The statement is true. But if it says, if it rains today, then the road is wet. If it rained today, but the roads are not wet, that basically means antecedent is true and consequent is false, so the statement is false. Then it says, if it rains today, then the road is wet. It rained today. It did not rain today, for example, but still the roads are wet. This is considered to be true. And in the case of both antecedent and consequent, both are false. Still, the rule says that P then Q statement would be considered true. So this is the rule of conditional propositions in the context of truth table while testing the validity of our arguments with the help or with the technique of truth table. We need to understand, comprehend these rules properly, otherwise we won't be able to use truth tables effectively in our symbolic logic, and we will be liable to commit some mistakes and which will eventually lead us to invalidate our argument. So we have to be very careful about these symbols because these symbols are meant to simplify things rather than to make them complicated. If we do not understand them properly, obviously this will make it difficult for us and it will make it more complicated than it is tend to be. So in order to have a bit more close look to these rules, you can fall back on these two books, Introduction to Logic by Evan Kofi and Cohen, and A Concise Introduction to Logic by Hurley. These two books are very useful in the basic conceptions of logic, and you can consult these books, and even after consulting these books, if you don't understand anything or if you have uh, any questions or comments or anything which is confusing, please do let me know. By all means, you can use your email, you can use class WhatsApp group, or you can use any way to ask me questions, and I will try to clarify these before starting our new lecture. Uh, Till then, I hope you stay safe and take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz now.